Hi, welcome to City Country 6 Podcast. This is where you get to hear inside conversations between city and country about life, kids, womanhood, culture, black southern things. Eavesdrop in on our phone conversations to laugh, cry, amen, disagree, and agree with your bi-weekly dose of what did I just listen to? Let's listen in on this week's most recent phone call of differences. Hi, this is your girl Country. It's been a while. City's busy, so I'm doing this interview with my friend Tarmise. She is a photographer, a friend, a mother, a daughter, a niece, a cousin. Like she does a lot. Like we've already discussed on this podcast, moms do a lot. They do a lot. We have met at church, and that's the reason why I am doing this podcast with her because she has had some church hurt as well since we had met at the same church. And if I'm not mistaken, we both had the same kind of pain when it came down to when we had to stop going to church. So this is an episode of her testimony. So it's not going to be your usual, banter, ha ha ha, but it's still going to be good. At this time, I'm going to have my friend introduce herself. Go ahead, Tarmise.
Hi, my name is Tarmise, and I'm a mother, a wife, a daughter, friend, life coach, photographer, and I am thrilled to be here today to sit down and talk with Country and to share bits of my story with you all.
All right, Tarmise. Um, would you like to start with your childhood um first introduction to church and just how it was for you, the funny moments, the not so funny moments, the sad moments, all of that.
Okay, sure. I grew up in church. Church was a staple in our household growing up, as many Southern families. This is true as well. I grew up in church. I don't even remember when I began to go to church before I even was aware of going to church. And church was just a part of life. It was just a part of your Sunday routine. And I enjoyed church as a child. All my friends went. Not all of us went to the same church, but I had a lot of friends at the church that I attended, and it was enjoyable attending. I enjoyed Sunday school. I enjoyed, learning, and I enjoyed, like I said, attending Sunday service, being with the people, the elders, the older people, whoever. And I enjoyed it up until around age 12. And I was in the eighth or ninth grade, and some turmoil came up in the church, my home church at that time. And it brought a lot of confusion and strife and pain, a lot of division. And at that point, I no longer enjoyed attending church. So one of my aunts attended a different church, and I just began to go to church with her. I don't remember if I asked my mom or just told my aunt I didn't want to go to my home church anymore because it wasn't the same anymore. They changed leadership, and it wasn't the same because the adults that I loved, they were just like into it with one another, and that brought me a lot of pain because I'm a person of mercy, and I'm emotional, and I'm very sensitive, so I don't like confusion and strife and things like that. And so I'm a peacemaker, I guess you would say. And I began to attend the other church from about age 12 to maybe 19, early 20s. That was when I started um, venturing more out into the world, into culture. And I started, as you may want to say, wilding out. I started doing my own thing. I started um, being more rebellious, just being more disobedient from the principles that I grew up to know were right.
Yeah,
And
like
I
the
just
I'm sorry to cut you off, but
good.
like, every child has their teenage years of where they
Mhm.
just want to do whatever. You're in the teenage
Yes,
years of your
yes.
relationship with God.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And up until that point, I had been kind of a wallflower, just this good girl is what I'm gonna say. Good girl. I didn't give my family any problems. I didn't give them any pushback or anything until about age 19. And so I wanted to get my feet wet in the world, wanted to do my own thing, figure out my own way of living. And I found church to go down on my list of priorities. It was no longer a priority or something that was just a given on Sunday that I'm going to attend church service. And eventually, the more I saw a billboard one day and I liked it. It said, "The more you miss church, the less you miss church," or something like that. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, but I began to hang out. I like to party. I like to go out at night on
Mm-hmm.
Saturday night. So I didn't, wake up for church on Sunday.
Oh,
I
so
just
you
wanted
just
to,
missed church altogether. Like
I,
you didn't
yeah,
you didn't go after the club and end up in your club clothes at the
nope.
church. You just said, I'm not going.
Right. I like to sleep. I've always been a sleeper. And so I like to sleep. And so it was like, no, I just didn't go. Like you said, no, I didn't. And it became easier to just like not go. And this went on for many years, at least 10 or more years
Mm,
that this went on. And I eventually had graduated college because I was doing my college years. And I eventually graduated um, college, moved out on my own. And so there was nobody there to watch over my shoulder to make sure that I went or anything. And so it became less and less of like I said, a priority.
mm-hmm,
And I began to um, find myself dealing with different romantic relationships. And that was kind of the thing that um, I thought, because I didn't grow up with my dad. I don't want to get on too many topics, but my
yeah.
story overlaps. But I did not grow up with my dad. And so relationships with men was like something that I really wanted a good relationship. I really wanted a man to love me. So I would find myself in these relationships and they were toxic and they were all pretty much similar. And it was
Mm-hmm,
finally this one relationship was the tipping point because I was weary at that point of trying to do things on my own, trying to make life work on my terms outside of God's will for my life. And that relationship, the reason I brought up, it drove me to God. It really did because I was um like I said, bemoaning not having a good relationship, romantic relationship. And this one relationship was very like depressing on me. It just caused me a lot of anguish, pain, heartbreak, whatever you want to call it.
mm-hmm,
God used that. That's why I wanted to stress that God used that relationship to bring me home to himself
mm-hmm,
because I got tired. I was so tired. And what normally worked for me, normally I can press through it, the grief, the pain, the depression, the heartache. I would just suck it up or just deal with it. This time was different. It
mm-hmm,
was like all of those other relationships combined with this one took a huge toll on me all at once. And I felt like I was going over the edge, is the way I can describe it.
mm-hmm,
Because I was like, why isn't my way working? Why aren't these people seeing me, valuing me, knowing that I'm a, good choosing me, I'll say, choosing me. And
mm-hmm.
I was about to drive myself crazy, honestly, wanting to be wanted.
Right.
And I cried out to God in the midst of that pain
Mm-hmm.
because it became too much. The pain, honestly, the emotional pain became too much. And I found myself telling God, God, if you do not help me, I'm not going to make it. And those were my words. And they came out of my mouth suddenly in a moment. I did not rehearse them. I didn't think about them or anything. It was like my soul was crying out, telling God, I recognize that you are my hope, that you are my help. that only with your help will I be able to move from this emotional state that I'm in. That was my moment of surrender. That
Mm-hmm.
was my moment of saying, God, okay, what do you want me to do? What is it that you've been trying to tell me to do that I have not been listening? I'm all ears in this moment.
Now I got a question.
Yes.
Were you in church at this time?
No, I was not. I was
Okay.
not in church.
So
Mm-hmm.
interesting enough that you were not in church,
Mm-mm. Right.
yet you had a moment of recollection.
Yes.
All right. I'm
Yes.
just,
Amen.
just making this point here. I know I'm
Amen.
kind of biased about all of this, but
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. Yes. Because the seeds that were planted as a child, I believed in God. I knew God was real.
mm-hmm.
I just knew, like from growing up, I knew, but the way people had presented God to me, I thought because of the things I was doing and had done, that God was angry with me, that God did not like me.
Yeah, because how can I put this? Being raised in the Bible Belt,
Yes.
you are taught to judge ever so harshly and to be so legalistic
Mm-hmm.
that there's no way on God's green earth that he could
Yes.
love you if you made but one mistake.
Yes. Yes.
It's like you're
Exactly.
taught that from the time you were put into
Mm-hmm.
the church building
Yes.
to, now you're an
Yes.
adult and you're trying to,
Yes.
gravitate, not gravitate,
Mm-hmm.
but well, yeah, you are. You're trying to gravitate towards something that's not quite that because you're like, that can't be right to walk around here
Right.
living in a world of, but anyways,
Yes.
you had asked God to help you get you on
Yes.
track. Then,
Yes.
okay, so at this point, you're at adulthood.
Yes, I am. Yes.
All right, you're at adulthood. You come across to become, I don't know if this is right or not. Yes, you're my friend, but I could be completely wrong on the time period. But you come across a relationship that conceives your child, or am I too far ahead?
Yeah, you too far ahead.
Okay, well, back up. All right, how did
Yeah.
you get out of that situation? Like, what happened after you got out of that situation to where, like I said, you were not in church, you get this idea, God tells you this idea. What do you do next?
The moment I surrendered, I had a friend that God had sent in my life. She was my personal trainer. And let me say it like this. I hired her as my personal trainer. God had her on an assignment to bring me home.
Mm.
We had been working out, and in the moment I cried out to God, I also asked him to send somebody to pray with me because I knew I needed somebody that actually had a solid relationship with him to help guide me to my next step. And my friend had been pouring into me for a while, the personal trainer. When we would work out, she would actually have Bible studies with me after our workouts. They were
Mm.
very short, they were very powerful, and I enjoyed them. And she would pray with me after the workouts. And her walk, she was the most influential person on my decision that was in my life because she would talk to me about God. She would invite me to church, but I would say no, and she would not judge me.
Mm.
I was so intrigued by her relationship with Christ. I wanted what she had. Her walk was so refreshing from anybody I'd ever been around. She made Jesus personal to me.
Mm-hmm.
She was so well rounded and well balanced in her walk. He was attractive to me
Mm-hmm.
because most people that tried to bring God to me, they weren't practical enough. And even some, I did not like their walk. I did not like the way they treated people or the way that they represented Christ, just being honest. So my
Mm-hmm.
personal trainer was the most influential person in my life. And she came in and I wanted what she had. I wasn't ready at first to let go of the things I needed to let go of to have the walk share, but she was so compassionate, so loving, so kind to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
most people, if I told them, if they invited me to church and I didn't want to go, they would kind of maybe say certain scriptures or kind of try to push me to go. She didn't. She dropped. She didn't say anything one way or the other.
Hmm.
I didn't feel
Interesting.
manipulated. I didn't feel pressured. It was just, but the thing about her, I knew she was praying for me. She would pray with
Mm-hmm.
me, but literally when she would leave, her prayers, I could feel them. If that makes sense, I
Mm-hmm.
knew this lady was riding in her car praying for me. I can't explain it in the natural, but she was praying for me. She was really praying for me because I'm like, this lady is still praying for me. I could feel it. Like, and her walk, like I said, was so attractive to me. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted what she had. So the day I surrendered and I told God in my head, I didn't say it out loud. I surrendered out loud, but I didn't tell him I need some help. I need in my mind, it was like, I need help. I don't know who to turn to. I've just had a moment with God where I'm like tired of the way I'm living and I don't want to do this anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
she actually, we weren't working out that day. We had become friends. She came to my apartment on her way to an appointment. And by that time, I had got myself, my face cleared up from crying, everything. I was too embarrassed. I was too prideful. I was too ashamed to ask her to pray with me, even though she had been praying with me. I didn't want to tell her what had happened that morning. And she visited for a little while. She left. Before she made it to her car, God told her to come back inside my apartment and pray for me.
Mm-hmm.
She knew nothing in the natural. God told her, T is what she calls me. God told me
Mm-hmm.
to pray with you. I broke. Something in me broke because I knew God heard me in that bathroom. I
Mm-hmm.
knew God loved me. For him to send this lady, me not tell her, hey, can you pray with me? I had a moment this morning. God sent her back. She was getting in a car. And when he, that made me, I felt so seen. I felt seen by God in that moment because I'm like, wow, how did that happen? Like, you heard me? Like, you really heard? Like, you really, and that
Mm-hmm.
changed, honestly, the trajectory of my life because in that moment, God gave me a supernatural grace that the person I was involved with, I cut them. I cut them cold turkey. In the
Mm.
days, weeks, months later, they would call, they would want to see me and everything. And literally, God gave me the strength that I refused. And the reason I said,
Oh.
God, I couldn't have done that in my own on my own accord. I could not have done that because I was into this person. I liked them, you understand? And
Mm-hmm.
I literally did not continue the relationship or anything. But at that time, there was a thirst for God, the word of God, reading the word, understanding my life, my pain, how God felt about the things I'd gone through. I began to unpack that right there like never
Mm-hmm.
before. It was like God accelerated my growth revelation process. Like he had been wanting me to come for a long time. He had been wanting me to turn to him, to seek him, to be with him. I was running. That moment I said yes and gave him
Mm-hmm.
permission, it was like he put me on an accelerated track to heal, to get free, to find my purpose, to recognize the way I was looking at myself wasn't the right
Mm-hmm.
way, that I was loved, that I was forgiven, that I was chosen. Those type of things I learned God for myself. No longer
Mm-hmm.
did I have to um live in half knowing God based off of what other people growing up and over the years had tried to present to me. I began to know him for me, for myself. And nobody could take that away from me because he revealed himself to me, the loving father he was and had always been to me, the way he had protected me, the way he had always given
Mm-hmm.
me favor in different situations with people. I learned of him for me.
And again, you were not in
I
church.
was not in church. I was not in church. At shortly after this that time, my friend, like I said, she was in church. She would invite me. I still was reluctant to go to visit church or different ministries. So eventually it got to where I was like, well, didn't you say your friend was having this service and everything? And I would say, I'm gonna think about it. Like we'd be working out, and I'm like, I'll let you know when we finish working out. I'm think about it. And I may not go that week. And then finally I'll be like, okay, I want to go this next week. I want to go, see what it's about, see if I like it. And I
Mm-hmm.
gradually began to go to church or church services that weren't necessarily at church. Maybe they were hosting them at a meeting room at a hotel and things like that. But I just
Mm-hmm.
had I'm gonna be honest, I had a negative connotation towards church people. The original hurt in my home church, it really scarred me. It
Mm-hmm.
did, and it was just like I just kind of like lost interest because I just it that just really scarred me, and so I was.
So,
Mhm.
the one you're talking about, the one from when you were in middle school to an
Yes,
adulthood, or the
yes,
one when, okay, that one
yes.
scarred you.
That church scarred me. My first church home from that I attended from birth until like eighth or ninth grade.
Oh,
That
the first, okay, the first.
that
Mm-hmm.
wounded me. The Baptist church, that the second church I went to with my aunt, they didn't necessarily wound me. I just kind of became indifferent to going because
Mm-hmm.
I was more interested in hanging out and doing things that, I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I didn't have a I'm gonna be honest, I didn't have a lot of faith in church. I call them church folks. That's what I call them, church folks. And
I mean, because it's true.
yeah, because
They church
they were
folks.
church folks to me. And I encountered many, on my job, and they would invite me. But like I said, I looked at their fruit at work. I looked at how they treated people, how well they
Mm-hmm.
loved or not loved people, just how they treated people. And
Mm-hmm.
there, I just wasn't impressed. There was one lady that I did work with. I really loved her walk. She was a very loving, kind person, but we would laugh and cut up. She's an older lady, older than me, and I loved working with her because she would talk to me about God and the Bible. But the next minute, we would be cutting up, laughing about something, and we
Mm-hmm.
had a great time working together. So I loved her walk, but God
Mm-hmm.
really stepped it up when He sent, like I said, my personal trainer to because I was seeing her several times a week, one-on-one training.
Mm-hmm.
So, she had a
Right.
lot of influence, developed a lot of influence in my life. And so I understand people that, you know, um, have been hurt in church or have allowed it to even spill over into their mistrust or whatever you want to call it of God. I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there before because fast forward a little bit, I started attending a church. It was funny. My life is like funny or however you want to see it. My
Ironic.
ironic. I'm just a yeah, I do things sometimes to an extreme. Like if you want to say, so I went to
Mm-hmm.
not going to church for over like 10 years. I visited a church. I was living in Birmingham area, and I visited this church in Montgomery with my personal trainer, and I really liked the church and connected with the church. And if you're not familiar with the area, Birmingham to Montgomery is about 90 minutes one way. So I went from not
Oh,
attending
that's so long.
not attending church, right? Not attending church to joining a church in Montgomery where I was driving an hour and a half each way to go to church.
That you really loved the church.
It was like, yes. And you know what? In that trip, it seemed like nothing to me. That trip
Oof.
was nothing to me. I'm being honest. And I did that for 4 years, three or 4 years, um, with gold. And it was like that was where I needed to be. I felt like God had me for that season. As odd as that may sound, I was single. I lived alone. So it wasn't a hardship because it wasn't like, I had to think about anybody else. It was just me. But the
Mm-hmm.
training and the healing and the preparation for the things, even a lot of things I do now, it really started there. It really started at that church. It was a small
Hmm.
ministry, and I got like I said, I got a lot of understanding, revelation, healing, purpose in that season of my life, in that season. But I think sometimes, um, just to insert this, sometimes we don't understand times and seasons in our lives, and sometimes we can be in a season that is so good and think we don't see when it shifts, when it's time to change, when it's time to go, because we realize all the good things that we've gotten out of that season or out of that place we don't
Hmm.
recognize, but it's up now. That season is up or is
Right.
dwindling. You know what I'm saying? So that
Right.
was kind of the situation there. I got hurt once again because the same people that were pouring into me and helping me, I think somewhere along the way they got off track, is what I'll say. Because
Mm.
just, to let people know, this is not to put anybody down. You notice I'm not saying names of organizations or anything like that.
Right.
It's not a to put, judge, or criticize. I'm just sharing my testimony because I feel like there are a lot of people with similar stories that can relate, and I'm just here to share. Maybe somebody else can glean insight from some of the things that I've been through, or I say, but
Right.
it was a I love the ministry. The people was a small organization, but I saw some things, and some things started, just not sitting well with me, and I denied it. I denied it, and
Mm.
I talked myself like, no, no, that's not true. You're thinking too much, or you know how you can talk yourself out of what you're sensing, and that was pretty much what
Hmm.
happened. And so for a while, I was just like, something ain't right. Like, no, that's me. That's the devil. Like, no, that's not, and I denied
Yep.
it.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. And so once again, my trainer, she had moved out of state, and we were still good friends, kept in touch. And so she came to visit one particular weekend, and she went to church because, like I said, she was the one that had introduced these people. She introduced me to them. She knew them before I did at the church I had now joined. And
Hmm.
we went to church in Montgomery, and she witnessed some things. We both sit there, and I just needed God. Like, it's like God knew I needed somebody else to confirm, like, no, it's not just you. Because sometimes when it comes to leadership and people, we can put them in the wrong place. We can put them
Oh, put them on a
on a
pedestal, right up
pedestal.
there up
We
top.
can, yeah, we can dull down our own discernment and hearing and understanding from God, because, oh, that's the pastor. You don't go
Hmm.
against the pastor, but you hear God,
Mm.
and it's like, I'm like, okay, God, now you um trump the pastor. So it's like, but you still be like kind of reluctant to believe it. So
Right. Yeah.
he sent her. She saw some things. It confirmed that I was not off, that I wasn't off.
Right.
And from that moment on, I didn't go back. I didn't go back. Um
So you didn't confront anybody. You didn't,
it
oh, y'all going to
uh-uh.
hell and
Not in that
you just
moment. In that moment, right. In that moment, I did not. Later on, in in a phone conversation, I was able to express to some of the people there, including the leader. I was able to express my feelings and thoughts on the things that I saw that were going on. And of course, um, just being honest, sometimes people
please.
try to gaslight you, and
Yeah.
they will say, oh no, it wasn't like that. You didn't, like, they'll want you to deny your own sight, your own intuition, your own discernment. They'll try to convince you that you're seeing things wrong. And
Okay. Because I was going to ask you, okay, how well did that actually go? Because you talking about they pastor, you talking about they deacon, or you talking about the mother of the church here, So yeah, how well did that go off?
it did not. It did not. I'm usually a very easygoing person. And I was kind of more aggressive, if you want to say, in the
Mm-hmm.
conversation, because I don't like people trying to insult my intelligence. And
Mm-hmm.
so I stood my ground, is what I'll say. I stood my ground with the
Okay.
sister that called me, and I don't think she was ready for that, because that was not my that was not my normal personality. And
Wasn't ready for the 1-2 you came with.
right, exactly. And so when
I'm sorry.
I had to know, it is funny now,
Ooh,
but
yeah, yeah. At the time, I know you was like, "Oh man, that hurt,"
it
but then it's
did.
like,
Yes, it did. And so I expressed, pretty aggressively what I saw, and how, that it did not line up with the word of God, or how Jesus handled situations and things like that. And
mm-hmm,
so, we ended that conversation. It was a few weeks, couple at least weeks, before the leader reached out to me, and everything. And I, was pretty aggressive and standing my ground about what happened, what I saw, how it was not walking in love, how it was not the way Jesus would have done things and everything. But I knew that my time was up. I knew my time was up prior to that particular day, but I did not want to accept it. I did not want to leave. I did not want to accept that that season was up, because I did not know where I was going to go, what was going to happen, what I was going to do upon exiting that situation. And
which is interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt
no,
again.
no, you're okay.
Which the interesting about that is the fact that you speak like you had just lost a job.
Yeah,
You speak like you had just lost a loved one.
it felt, it was grief, honestly.
And that's what I'm trying to get at, is the
Mm-hmm.
fact that it's like you literally had to grieve this,
I
all the
did.
relationship, because it wasn't just a relationship
No,
with
no,
the pastor, as far as hearing the word, that type of relationship.
yeah,
It was the relationship of the people that you had,
yeah.
Bible study with, and
Yes,
fellowships
yes.
with,
We went
and
out to
you
eat
know
every Sunday, pretty much after service. And like I said, it was a small congregation, so it was more like a family. It was honestly like a family, and so you feel like
mm-hmm,
you're losing not one person, not an organization. You're losing multiple relationships at one time.
mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that is because it was the type of situation where I knew if I left, most of the people weren't going to talk to me.
Which, out of curiosity, how did that make you feel to know that they were basically excommunicating you from that uh I would from that group, from that community, let's call
It,
it that, because for you to feel like you've lost a job or lost a
mm-hmm.
family member, you're losing that community, that village.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, it
So
was
how did it make you feel to know that they weren't going to talk to you anymore?
very painful, very painful. And I think that is why I was reluctant to accept that. I heard God telling me my season was up there. None of us want to feel rejection. None of us want to, willingly feel rejection, because that's the word that I felt. I felt rejected. I felt um, heartbreak, heartache,
Mm-hmm.
grief. Just a lot of emotional pain, because I
So,
love hard. I love hard, whether it's
mm-hmm.
romantic relationship or just regular relationship. I love people hard.
Okay. And yeah, I know that a lot about, like, you are the extrovert of my life. I
Oh
thought I
Lord,
was
girl,
extroverted. It's like, no, she loves people,
girl.
y'all. Like, she is
Oh
she is
Lord,
out here loving people. A stranger on the side of the road, she will have a conversation with a
right?
complete stranger. It floors me. It floors
Yes.
me. She's like, I was talking to this person. I'm like, who do you not talk to,
Right,
girl?
right. I honestly love people. And it's a
You do.
yeah, it's a
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's a God thing, because our most of the time our natural uh, you know, ability. We don't just gravitate, but I just have this love. I can just look at people and just like, now there are people I don't like. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to fool y'all, but I'm just saying, like, in general, it's like I understand like the love that God has for humanity. I really do, because he's given me the ability like to just see like how this person may be just, oh, somebody homeless, or this person to you, but I just, God will just give me like this warm feeling honestly in my heart when I see people, because I'm like, Jesus died for that person, like he loved that person.
Mm,
I just literally can kind of feel like God, how God loves people,
right.
honestly.
Right. I understand. And that's amazing. Speaking on that, I want to speak on how we met. I know
Okay.
this is a weird place to put it
No, it's
because
good.
it's actually not far off from the timeline,
Right,
honestly.
it's not.
It's not that far off.
Right.
Now that I've caught up to the timeline, I'm like, oh yeah, now I know where
Yeah.
we are. Um,
Yes.
we met not long after this.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Okay,
Hmm.
I'll let you go ahead, and then when we get to that part where we met,
Yeah.
I'll explain why I don't even still don't to this day don't understand how we're friends. It's almost like
That's
I'll
funny.
just explain when we get there.
That
Go
is
ahead. Go
funny.
ahead.
So yeah, like country said, um, I left that church. I was devastated. I'm gonna be honest. I was devastated, and I was mad at God. I was. And I know that there are people that will hear this that can relate. Maybe you're in that place right now that you're upset with God. You're disappointed with God because he allowed something to happen in your life that you don't feel like was fair, or that you don't feel like why it had to happen. I want to insult
Mhm.
your intelligence and tell you I have a answer for you, that I have this pat answer for everybody in their situation, but I'll share about mine. I was upset with God because I was like, God, why did you let me
Mhm.
drive down here an hour and a half each way for 3 4 years, and then this happened? Because when you're in pain and you're disappointed, you're blindsided sometimes by that, and you can't see anything good having come from that situation. You're like, why did you even let it happen if it was gonna come to this? Why did it even
Right.
have to go that way? And in the midst of that questioning and that ruminating, or whatever you would like to call it, I was like, God, please answer me. Why did that have to happen? I'm like, I'm done. Like, I was on the verge of walking away from having a relationship with God, because I was like, I'm so tired of these people. I'm so tired of church people hurting me. These are supposed to be your people. Why do I keep getting hurt?
Amen. Amen. You're right on
You
that. Which
know?
is interesting that you say. It's not interesting that you say that. It's nice that you say that because there are. I'll put it this way, and we've had this discussion before. Instead of seeing God for someone above a building, above a group
Mm-hmm.
of people, you put God in the building,
Right.
or you put God in the group of people and say, "Oh,
Yes.
this is God because this is what I believe God is." And then
Right.
when all of a sudden these human beings that are supposed to fault
Yep.
you, or harm you or not harm you, but they make a mistake, as soon as they fall off that pedestal,
Mm-hmm.
then
Yes.
it's like, well,
You
God,
put
what you do
God,
that
exactly.
for?
Yes, you are exactly right. I don't put God, like, okay, they did. God still gives people free will, regardless,
Mhm.
And you're exactly right. We can say, oh well, God, you let this happen, so this was on you, like, not point
Mm,
at the people and everything. And so I went through this. I can't remember the time frame. It was probably a few months. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna give up on all of this, go back to like I was, not attending church, not worried about this, but it was something in me. It was like a foundation had been laid in me that it drew me back. Like, I can't just walk away from God. I just couldn't. And so
mhm.
I thank God I had friends. I had my trainer, and I had another mature believer that I had become friends with. She lived in my apartment complex, and they were praying for me, and they were like counseling me and encouraging me. And then God was speaking to me even in the midst of my questioning and everything. And so I started visiting a church near my apartment, and I went there a few times. I just could not connect really there. It was a non-denominational church, and
Mhm.
it was close to the ministry I ended up going to that I met country. And so I went there a few
Mhm.
times. I couldn't connect. So I had a friend, and this new ministry was coming to my area. Well, they had a church already, but they were expanding, and they were newly expanded. So they were having service in like a elementary school, and they sent a they sent a flyer in my mail. They put in all the people that stayed in my apartment complex. The mail people did, and they were having a movie type thing for church where you were gonna watch a movie. And I said, "Oh, this is out of the box. I love out of the box stuff. It's like this is different." So I asked one of my friends, "Hey, you want to go to this? Because it sounds interesting." So we went and visited, and I liked it. I liked it. And I was like, okay, I'll probably go back there. And so I started going back by myself. My friend with me the first time, but she didn't go the subsequent times. And I liked it. And I was like, okay. I was like, I like this place. This is different. And I began, and so eventually they moved into a permanent building, and I continued to attend. And country, do you want to share how I approached? I don't know.
Oh, you might not remember
I
how
do.
you approached me. Oh, you do? Oh, okay. Well, my version is probably going to be very hilarious just because of my thought process. You hear how Termise is talking. You know what kind of person she's, very bubbly, very charismatic, kind of deal. Like she's all this. I think about that time, I think me and my family, we were going to different churches. I think we had finally gotten to this one. And I don't know how long we had been going, and I know it was just me and my daughter at the time going because my husband, he was working two jobs, and
Yeah.
yeah, and in order for me to be a stay-at-home mom, just how it had to work out.
Right.
Anyway, so I was the only one going, and my daughter, as y'all know her as CEO, she's very quiet, she's very, observant, and she doesn't do much. She'll
Right.
sit there and pay attention,
Right.
and that's pretty much how it all started. I think I was like 2 or 3 rows up from where Tarmise was, and I think she caught me in the bathroom. We
Yes,
were
it
in that
was. It
dreaded
was.
it was that dreaded bathroom line of the women's bathroom.
Right.
And she just started talking. She's like, "That's your daughter." And I was like, "Well, yeah." And of course, my mind was who else would she
Right.
be? I'm with her,
Right.
but of course, she's trying to start a conversation. But me being I mean, it was a lot of people in there. So I'm just like trying to get my kid to the bathroom and get
Right.
out of there. Like that's all I'm trying to
Yes.
do.
Yes.
I'm very tunnel vision oriented while she's like, Tamarace is like, let me collect all the emotions or all of the particles in the air and
Right.
embrace them in the moment. And I'm like, I could care less
Right.
about what the potpourri smells like. I gotta go.
Right.
Yeah. But she's talking to me and she's like, oh well, I'm just so amazed at how you know well your daughter acts in church. I said, well, she ain't got a choice.
Right.
She that right? Or she
Right.
gonna get a hand torn.
Right.
She
Yes.
started laughing. She's like, yeah. She's like, well, my son can't do that. He has to go to, because I can't. We won't get nothing done if he sits in there. And I was like, I understand that. And
Right.
the whole time I'm sitting here thinking is, how long are we gonna talk about this? I got to go to the bathroom.
Right.
you
Right.
know. And she's just talking to me and everything. And I didn't think, nothing of it. It was just one of them things where it's like, I'm focused,
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my thing going.
Right.
And that was the first time we encountered each other. And after that, we waved and we spoke. And that was the only person at that church that ever spoke to me that
Yeah.
wasn't doing it out of the obligation of, oh, I must greet you because
Right.
we're here.
Yeah.
It was the only outside of that, I never, encountered anybody that willingly, sought me out or actually reached out to me. I think I was in a couple of their like Bible study groups.
Right.
They call now, they're not even Bible study groups anymore. They're called small groups across,
Yes.
I think, all of church everywhere.
Yeah.
They call them small
Right.
groups. So yeah, I think I went to one of those, but never had anyone in that group like reach out to me. Actually, I had some bad experiences in one of those,
Right.
but either way,
Okay.
we'll leave that alone. That's not about me. We already talked about me. But yeah, that's how I met her. And then after a while, I think, she had come across my husband a
Yeah.
couple times. Didn't even know we weren't that far apart from each other
Right.
where we lived either.
Right.
Didn't have a clue about that. But yeah, we connected a lot. Never sat by each other because we had different,
Yes.
comfort zones of where we would sit. I would sit closer to the front while she would sit more in the middle.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and then I think I can't remember. I think we had both moved close around the same time. And
Okay.
that's when we really like connected. I want to say, I could be wrong,
Right.
but we were still all going to that same
Mm-hmm.
church. But we had all moved into the same, literally, we're
Yes.
in the same subdivision at this
Right. Right.
point.
Right.
And it's like interesting to know. And I think at one point, I think my husband had started coming, and then she started seeing my husband like at Walmart and all
Yes.
these other stores, like, oh, hey, I ran in. I'm like, really? And at one point, I think we had exchanged numbers because I think that's when we found out we lived in the same subdivision.
Right.
We exchanged numbers, and,
Right.
our kids were going to the same school, and
Right.
yeah, that's how we
Yes.
are. But and during that time though, while we were going to that church, things seemed okay.
Yes. Yes.
Things appeared very okay. We had a lot of hiccups
Right.
at that church, a lot of hiccups, a lot of things that had me question. I think I was questioning stuff about year 3
Right. Okay.
or
Okay.
4 of my
Okay.
attendance.
Yeah.
Because I think we had a couple of deaths. We had several people, pastors swap out.
Right. Right.
But
Yeah.
well, no, it's just one death. Well, either way, it doesn't matter. The details of that don't matter. It's just the fact that I think it was around after that one pastor had passed.
Right.
I think that's when I started noticing something's not quite right.
Right. Yeah.
But when did you start noticing things weren't quite right?
You know what? To be honest, I guess sometimes I can be a Pollyanna, and I didn't notice stuff. I really did. Like, I can look at stuff. Sometimes I can be aloof, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I could be like, oh, wait a minute, but I'll brush it off because I'll be like, maybe I'm just looking at it wrong and everything. And so it took a while for me to just really honestly, just see some things that I was like questioning, but I was like, maybe I'm the type, I'm always gonna say, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm looking at it. I really try to err on the side of maybe I'm not looking at this the right way, or I don't see this the right way. And so I know there was a transition in power to a different because like she said, there was quite a bit of moving around of the leadership. And so at one point, there was a leadership change. And I just felt like maybe this was too much for the person because they were of a young age and maybe they weren't ready or equipped to, lead the size of this congregation and what they needed. But I still just tried to, to go along with it and just say, well, maybe they know.
Which is very interesting though, because we've literally been in church almost the same amount of time. We've both been in church in the same state, in the same, Southern, Black Baptist,
right,
all the way down. I'm like, it's all this almost identical,
yes,
even the countryness of it.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
even down to the rural parts of it, it's very similar. But we had two different experiences as far as, yes, our personalities are different.
Right.
I'm a little bit more pessimistic. I'm a little bit more realistic on things, while you're more on the optimistic side.
Right.
You're more on the,
right.
Not rose-colored glasses.
Yeah, I got you. Oh yeah.
You can't look at you can't see the devil in everything, so to speak.
Right.
And,
right.
And it just is very interesting to me that I think it's funny too, because it's like after I joined, that's when I started seeing stuff, and I went, hold on, wait a minute. Now, me as a PK,
yeah, right.
I know what goes on behind the scenes.
Right.
You know what's, and then even if you're not a PK, if you've gone since the day you were born to a church, you know the ins and especially if you've been to this one for like 20 years.
Right.
You know the ins and outs. You don't have to be a PK to know
right.
the ins and outs.
Right.
Yep. But for me, I wasn't a PK like from the time I was born.
Right.
I think I was a PK starting in before my father was officially called. I think I was in my like early 20s or late
Okay.
teens.
Okay.
He was officially called, but he was already teaching and stuff like that before then. So I would
Yeah.
like to say probably around 14,
Okay.
15 years
Okay.
old. So I'm like, I'm an old PK. So, you know,
Right.
it's, but still being in church most of your life, you should, you
Yeah.
kind of know. So for me, like I said, a lot of the political and jargon,
Right.
the terminology, they were kicking me in the face left and right
Right.
sometimes, and I'm like, and there were some Sundays I was like, what in the world,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
but go ahead with when it started to take, well, fast forward a little bit,
Okay.
and when it started to take a turn, let's go with um let's go with 2019, before 2020 even hit, before all that stuff really started to
Right.
take a toll. Did you
Right.
notice anything around 2019?
I did. I believe, I'm
Okay.
not sure of the timeline. I believe that was when, like I said, a younger minister was placed as the senior leader of.
No, I think it was well before
It
that.
was okay. I can't.
It was well before
Okay, so
that.
I can't really honestly remember 2019.
Maybe.
I can't.
Hold on.
I can't. You know.
Let's not go into detail because I think
Okay.
I forgot there were so many of them that went through.
Right. Right. So I don't like. Cause I've lost track of the
but
time.
there
You know.
but there was that one that was really really iffy, and that's the one that made me go, something's not right
Yeah.
with this.
Right.
It started to feel more like heir
Mm-hmm.
to the power
Right.
thing. And if you've been in any church,
Right.
and you've got a pastor that has a son or a pastor that has a daughter, they're 9 times out of 10 going to be a deacon, a
Right. In
minister,
leadership. Yeah.
some type of leadership
Yep.
role, whether music, something.
Right.
Okay, it comes with the territory.
Right.
They're not allowed not to do that.
Yes.
But this one was very interesting because of just how it all fell out.
Right.
It's just very interesting. But hindsight's 2020.
Yes.
So we'll just go ahead and fast forward on
Okay.
to 2020 exactly.
Okay.
Pun on a pun. And that's when the pandemic hit.
Yes.
And that's when a lot of things came out in the open for a lot of people.
Right.
Not just people who went to church.
Right.
And for this podcast, we're talking about church hurt.
Yes.
So, Tarmis's version of 2020.
2020 started out like most other years. And, we were all kind of blindsided by the pandemic, something that we had never seen in this generation, this age, present age. And I was still fine, like I said, I would have moments where I could hear the voice of the Holy Spirit. I now know it was Holy Spirit telling me, okay, like you're gonna leave. You're transitioning from this place. And I'm like, what you talking about? Like, I'm thinking I'm talking to myself. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, why would I leave? Everything's fine, nothing's going on. Where am I going? What am I doing? And I heard that maybe that was like 2019, the ending of 2019. I heard like, okay, it's your time. It's time to move, to shift. But I was once again in denial because I'm like, everything is fine though. Why would I, shift? And there was a incident, scandal, whatever you want to call it, that came after the pandemic hit in March. I still went to church maybe a couple Sundays because they hadn't altered. Their schedule was still kind of like everybody was trying to figure out what are we doing, what's going on, what's happening with this pandemic. And so I still was attending service. And by April, I stopped. End of March, April, I didn't go, but I think they may have stopped services by that time or something. I can't fully remember. I'm just going to be honest.
I think by then it was a federal
mandate. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what it was. So I'm
it was
like,
because the schools had shut down
right,
and everything. And
there you
go.
The
churches were the very, very last ones.
Right.
They were putting up a fight upon all fight. I said, no, why y'all? Never mind.
Right.
Go ahead. Well, that's another day.
Right. So yeah, so we weren't attending, but I just knew like, okay, they're gonna get this thing handled in a short time, a month or two, and we'll be back to normal and everything. Well, there was a story that ended up unfolding that involved the senior pastor. And when I first saw it on social media, I was in denial. I'm just gonna
like
be
most
I'm
people.
just gonna be honest. I guess y'all like this girl been
Mhm.
denial more than anybody. But but
Like she done been on this roller coaster ride about
right,
9 times and
like
she's still not
exactly,
catching
like
on.
I just still try to see the best. Like, okay, maybe. So people did a lot of this ministry organization. It caught a lot of flack anyway. Even before any of this, people really would drag for it. Now it has a lot of followers and stuff, but a lot of people would kind of drag for it and really have negative things to say on social media, on Facebook is what I'll say.
Oh yeah.
Facebook is my
Hmm.
main like social media platform that I participate the most in. And
She
I
acting
was
like
like,
a boomer, y'all. She acting like a boomer.
uh-oh. Hey y'all, I am. But
Which
no,
is
I'm not.
another
I'm
whole
not.
interesting
I'm
thing.
not a boomer, Emma. But
No, you're
I'm
not.
the X, I think. But anyway,
Either way,
anyway,
regardless.
I was like, what are they talking about now? When I saw it, I'm like, they're always like, these people do so much for the community. These people are always doing stuff. Why do people have to be so negative and everything? And so I'm like, kind
Hmm.
of brushing it off, like, I don't believe this. I don't know what they're talking about. So the more I delved into it and researched it, I'm like, wait a minute now, what they said happened? Like, hold
Hmm.
up, what had happened? I'm from
Hmm.
Central Alabama. That's a saying. That's how we talk. Names that we
Yeah.
talk. But what had happened mean like what's going on? So it
Hmm.
was like, wait, what? Like,
Hmm.
hold on. And I'm reading and I'm reading and I'm reading. And I'm like,
Hmm.
no, like I'm still like, no, I can't believe. Did he really? Like, no. And my little heart, Lord, it stank. It stank. And I was
She
like,
she went through it again.
again.
Round three, four,
Yes.
five.
And I was like, I'm not going to reach out to anybody. Like, I wanted to reach out to the people that also went, but I knew there was this divide already. Like, when, it came to the accountability part,
Hmm.
people were having empathy and sympathy and sympathizing. And I'm like, well, I don't know how anybody else feels. I'm feeling some type of way, which means I'm having
Hmm.
ambivalent, a mixture of feelings like I'm not liking this. This ain't a good look.
Hmm.
But I didn't want to reach out to like country or anybody else that I knew that went because I wasn't sure how anybody else felt. I was trying to sit with myself to come to a place of how do I really feel? What am I going to do? Like trying to process it, begin to
Hmm.
process it. And like, it was just overwhelming because I had defended this place because I had
Yeah.
friends, I had family members that dragged for it, and so I knew that there were going to be people that were going to be like, I told you
I
so,
told you
or,
so.
you
Hmm.
know, thing. And so, even like I said, my friends and stuff that went, I didn't know if they were empathizers that they still wanted to see the good in the person in the organization, or if they were whatever. So it was like a situation you don't know how to approach, even with those that you have sat along with, because everybody just deals with stuff differently. Some people may get
Hmm.
mad at you and want to defend that. And I'm not trying to get into any more strife or what. I'm trying to process my grief, my pain, my loss
Hmm.
once again. And I was just
Hmm.
like, oh my God. So I'm reading everything I could find pertaining to it. I'm
Hmm.
scrolling, I'm seeing what people sharing, I'm searching, I'm putting the name in, I'm seeing all different angles. I'm hurt once again. I'm heartbroken once
Hmm.
again. Like, wow. Honestly, I
Yep.
did not see it coming. I did not
I
see that.
did.
Wow.
I saw it coming. Well, that's because I hate to interrupt your story,
No, you're
but
good.
because it's because you're like this roller coaster of emotions that you're having to go through here. But I saw it because, like I said before, then I think it was because it was before the pastor, we call my son pastor. He was because he
Mhm.
as City likes to say, he has a food ministry because he's always eating.
Okay. Okay. Right.
But So it was before I had my son, and that is I was having a lot of daddy issues at that time.
Okay.
And I found out I was having a boy, and you would think I'd have been elated because I'm like, oh, I got a girl and I got a boy. No, my heart sunk because my mind went into this deep, dark place of, he can't grow up like this. He can't grow up
Right.
like that. And then
Right.
I think around that time, there was already that tension with, Black boys and
Yeah.
being an American and all that. So I was having all these other issues.
Right.
Well, a lot of things were being said prior to that made me go, this isn't right. Like there was a lot of political stuff that was said
Okay.
that shouldn't have
Okay.
been said that made me go, because I think around one of those times I reached out to you, and I don't know if you remember or not, but I said, hey, did you listen to this? And I think you didn't go that day, or I can't really remember.
Yeah.
And you said you listened to it later, or you listened to it again. And I said, well, if you do, and if you hear this, let me know. And I think we had a discussion about it, and you were kind of like, well, I don't know what he meant, and this, that,
Okay.
and I
I
said, well,
honestly,
because
I
I think it was
don't.
it was about it was around election time, I
Okay.
think, or
Okay.
it was right after or something like that. Um, because it was about abortion basically and homosexuality and stuff like that. And I was
Okay.
like, why are we bringing this? And I don't think you were there that day. And that made me raise a red flag. I never said anything. I just kind of got quiet. I said, this don't seem right. Um, but then I think later on, because the algorithm on social media picks up what you follow and
Right.
everything. And I saw on my For You page that a certain senior or a certain pastor, I won't say senior or otherwise,
Okay.
had because I really don't want to go there, but had
Okay.
liked a certain post, and I was like, oh, showed it to my husband. He's like, are you surprised? I said, nope, but that answers my question.
Right.
And I still didn't say anything. I still didn't say anything. And to
Yeah.
this day, my husband tells me, I wish you'd have said something.
Right.
Like, well, you're the head of the house and you were in a good spot. And, you had a community of people you talked to, which now those community of people, of course, disappeared.
Yeah.
No sooner as, the situation dissolved, they
Right.
never reached out. I think a couple of them may have, and then they just kind of dissolved, like, never reached them again. And we had a lot of hurt at that time, though. It
Right.
wasn't just that one. We had a lot of hurt at that time. But I think I did reach out to you and I said, all right, girl, what you think?
Right.
You were like,
Right.
I'm still trying to process. I said, well, I need you done processing it. I need you to figure
Right. Right.
because I really want to know because I'm not gonna say I look to you as a mother or a big sister, big cousin. Like it's not so much that because like I said, to this day I still don't think you're the age that you are. So I feel like you're my age, but I just see you as such a confident
Right.
on certain things that I'm like, all right, you read the Bible and you study way more than I do. So I need to know how you feel about this.
Right.
I know how I feel about it, you
Right.
know, but
Right.
how do you feel about it? And what are you going to do? And you're just like, you had turmoil with that for weeks.
I did months, years, probably.
Yes.
Honestly.
Well, you were processing it really good. I was just talking about how you felt about it, like what you were going to do. It took you a few weeks.
Right. Because
to figure out what you
I still was like, I knew what I saw, but I still was in
mm-hmm.
denial. I still did not want to see it. I did not want it to be true. I'm gonna be honest. I did not
Mm-hmm.
want it to be true. I'm just being honest. And that it sucked the air out of me, seemed like, for a minute, because it was just hard for me to believe. I mean, and I really enjoyed being there. I enjoyed the way overall, like the most of the things were done in such a spirit of excellence and so organized. And I'd never seen anything like it in anywhere I had been, I'll say. And I just really wanted, how you want to wish something away, or you want to like turn a blind eye and say, well, it ain't that bad, or no, that ain't true. That was what I wanted to do, but I couldn't because I knew what I saw. I knew everything was like right here in front of me. It was in front of me. Like, you can't deny this. You can't brush this off. And
No.
the pain of it, yeah, it just was a lot. I'm gonna be honest. It was a lot. I did not question God like I did the prior situation. I had grown, I had matured enough at that point to know that people do what they want to do, regardless of if they call on the name of Jesus as their savior or not. They do what they want to do. And it was just a process. Like I said, I heard about that for a long time. And just, I don't know, it was hard just making a decision like, I'm not going back. I can't go back. You know, how you think, like, well, maybe, it wasn't necessarily about forgiveness. I eventually got to the place where I feel like, I forgave and let it go. It
Mhm.
was just the anger and the hurt of why? Like, why? Like,
Yeah,
why? My
with the
thing.
size and the emphasis of how many people in the communities that you influence
Hmm.
and impact,
Right.
how could this individual
Right.
be so
Yeah.
uh not sympathetic,
Yeah.
but put on the facade of being so. Then after that, like for me, I never went back
Right.
to any building, any
Hmm.
church, any nothing. I completely said that's it. I'm done.
Right.
It didn't take me as many times as it took you,
Right.
but
Right.
I also I
Yes.
also I'm in a different stage in life as far as like uh forced to go your first 18 years,
Yeah.
then just kind of like falling off, or you go but you're not really there
Right.
anyways, and then you go from that to just
Yep.
okay, we go because that's what we're supposed to do,
Right.
into, well, I've been down this road, I don't have to go down it again. I see where this lies, I see where this institution is going.
Right.
There's no point in it. I've been in different denominations, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, this isn't just a Baptist thing, this just isn't a Jehovah Witness thing, this just isn't a
Right.
Methodist,
Right.
Pentecostal,
Mhm.
non-denominational, it's all of
Right.
them.
Right.
For me it was all of them, and I hate to clump all of the institutions in one bag, but unfortunately in this day and age I don't think I'd be wrong to clump them.
Yeah.
However, for you, have you gone back to a church building since that incident for worship services?
I have gone to service since then, but I don't have a current church home that I attend on a regular basis. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have a church home. I do desire to be back amongst people and ministry. I do, but I have prayed, I've asked God, like, where do you want me, where do I want to, where can I go and everything, but I have not felt like I have the answer. And I have said I was going to visit different ministries. Like I said, I've visited some for different services and stuff, but I have not found a place where I felt like this is my home for this season or this next season, or this is where um I'm supposed to be or I need to be. I have not experienced that. And I do miss it. I don't miss, like, I'm not saying it because, like you said, in the South you just go. I like worshiping corporately. I like worshiping with a group of people. It doesn't have to be 1,000 people, but you know what I'm saying? It could be 10 of us, it could be 5 of us, but I like corporate. I like corporately worship and worshiping with others. I really do. I like um prayer. I like um yes, I like, you know what I'm saying? I like ministry. I do. And so for me, what I was led to do was to start I have a social media page that I use to share practical principles from the gospel that relate how the gospel relates to our everyday life. And um my page is for women, and it's for women that we talk about healing, being a wife, being a mother, being single, dealing with your job, dealing with boundaries, dealing with just practical ways of, because I think for me growing up, I'm gonna be honest, there was a disconnect of the practicality of the gospel and your everyday life. People didn't necessarily tell me how to you know what I'm saying, how the Bible applied to, God was concerned with every area of my life, how I handled things in my household, how I handled disagreements and confrontations with people, just how I handled my money. God is a practical God in that sense, that he has something in there for you and me to understand how to live our everyday life. So the purpose of my page that I do is to bring that to the forefront of what does God have to say about this or whatever's,
Right.
you know, going on and everything. And I still have a belief in the capital C church. I still believe in the church, because the Bible says that the gates of hell shall not prevail against the church. And I believe in that. Now, there are little C churches, different ministries, bodies of people that they hurt people. People get bruised, people get broken. But I still have faith in the capital C church, that God's church will prevail, that he always has a plan. You know, that's just my belief.
Oh, perfect. And that's a perfect spot, because to end on, not to end completely, but to end with, as far as you went from, like you said, going to a building,
Yes,
to now you do these things in the comfort of your home, or in wherever you're going to go.
Yeah.
So you still have the church. You just
Yes.
do not have.
Yes.
So, and that's what I'm trying to get at, is the fact that, okay, so again, God has shown you, and I'm saying, and now this is me okay, now I've sitting here and thought about it all and listened to it all. I have to have something to say, to go, okay, now if you don't realize it, I'm gonna tell you.
Okay.
Every time you had a move and where God has made a move for you, you were not in church.
Right. Right.
You were not in a building.
Yes, exactly. You're right.
When you cried out, you were not even in the building. You were nowhere near a church. You were just communing with other people.
Right.
Okay. You get in, and you don't go as hard as far as the information that you learned. Lessons, you didn't learn any lessons for so many years when you were in the building. But once you come out of the building, you have these huge lessons that you learn.
Yes.
And then you go into a building again, and okay, yeah, this is nice and everything. It gives you a purpose, but you don't learn as many lessons. Get out of the building again, you have more lessons. It's almost like the walls are confining you to what you can only know within the box.
Yes, that's good. That's good.
And it's just interesting, based on your story, just on your testimony alone, that you have become more accomplished, I guess you would say, if that is if you want to look at it that way.
Right.
Accomplished in your spiritual growth.
Yes.
You are not confined to an hour every Sunday.
Yes. Yes.
Because why? Because then you have conversations like these.
Yes.
And since you're such a people person, you have conversations like these every day of the week.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. I appreciate you putting that in perspective. I do. I do.
You're welcome.
I do.
You're welcome. I do it. I ain't gonna say I do it every time we talk. But every now and then it hits me.
Right.
And I'm like, if you don't see it, I see it. Why don't you see it?
No, I appreciate it, because that was one of the things I did want to bring up in the between time before I was at this last ministry, when I told you all that I was questioning and asking God, why did he allow it? One day I was encouraging another friend, because she was going through a church hurt situation at the same time. And it was like literally talking to her, the Holy Spirit told me, I told her, I said, you know what? We're going through this because we're going to be able to help other people. Like you said, we're going to be able to help. And when I said it, I know it was revelation, because I had not thought of it. Like, I was pining in my self-pity and pain and stuff. When I'm encouraging her, talking to her, all of a sudden the revelation came, oh, you're going to be able to talk to other people that are been hurt by people that they think God hurt them in a church, and it honestly, it lifted the burden off of me. It was like the pain of it no longer affected me like it had, because I'm a helper. I love helping people. And so if I go through something painful, I don't want it to be in vain. I want it to be used for somebody. Let somebody else get something from it. Let somebody else get a shortcut to their healing, hearing something that I learned through a hard place. And so that was one of the revelations God gave me, that even though that happened, He makes beauty out of ashes. He uses all things to work together for our good. The things that are meant to harm us, he uses them for our good. So that right there, when he said that to me, or had me to say that to my friend, that was like an eye opener, an epiphany, a revelation. I promise you, it brought some healing to me, because I recognized, like, you know what? The Bible talks about a lot of people falling away in the end. And I'm not just talking about church, I'm talking about from a relationship with him. And like you're saying, the foundation of it is we must know God for ourselves. We can't allow a person with a title, we put our trust in it, then when they let us down, we equate that with God letting us down. And so it's so important for us to have that personal relationship and revelation of him for ourselves. Like you say, like for me right now, I love the relationship I have with Christ right now. I love the word of God. And you know what? It's like you said, when you're younger, it's like this obligation that you got to. I get to. I look at my life, my walk, I get to read my Bible. I get to pray to my Father. I get to. It's like, not that I have to, because guess what? There are people in parts of the world, they will get stoned and killed for owning a Bible. I get to read the Bible. I get to hear God's heart towards me and towards mankind. And I love that. And I love that even growing up in a strict, legalistic environment, it's like, I don't have to do that. I enjoy. You understand what I'm saying? It's something that brings me joy. It's like the difference in somebody making you do something, or you feel like, oh, I got to do. I get excited, honestly, because it always makes me a better person. It helps me to understand. It brings light to my situation. I enjoy it. And I never thought I would be one of those people like that, like to read the Bible, like listening to scripture, like, because when you're growing up, you're like, oh God, I don't want to do that. It's a task. But once the life it brought to me, it brings so much life. I'm serious to me. When I'm going through stuff and I'm trying to feel like I got to figure it out, or I got to figure out what I'm going to do all the time. No, I can ask God, help me to understand this. What do you want me to do? Am I on the right path? He may not answer me in that moment, but I'm inviting him in to send answers. The answer may not even come the way I'm thinking. It may be a letter in the mail. It may be a conversation with you. It may be a conversation with somebody else that he revealed something. And it's like, oh, I was just talking to God about that. I was just journaling about that, So for me, it's an excitement that I get to enjoy a relationship with him and with others. I really like it. Even through the hurt, the disappointment, the letdowns, that I didn't feel like I would bounce back from. Those people couldn't stop me, because guess what? Your relationship is personal. You can't let any person, I don't care what they call themselves, you can't let them come between you and that relationship. We don't have to do that anymore. Back in the Old Testament, you had to send the priest had to go in for you. You can go in, but when Jesus came, he bridged the gap. You can talk to God whenever you want. You don't have to have the pastor to talk to God. You don't have to have a rabbi. You can talk to him yourself. That's what people must understand.
Yep, you're so right. You are so right. And your testimony proves that not everybody has it. So let me put that disclosure out there. Some people do need to go to church for their own, like, and I don't keeps them on point, keeps them regular, whatever works, that's fine. But for those that are teetering, which was the point of this episode, was to kind of clarify that if you're teetering on not going, but you still, because you've been raised to go, or someone hasn't, try to push you into going, you don't have to go. Like, there's still ways, but you still have to have a community.
Exactly.
To grow, like, because you can't be in your own echo chamber.
Yes, exactly.
Here, bouncing it like that. That's not how it works. That's whether you believe in God or not, that's not smart, period.
Yes,
like, you should always have,
you need community,
a countering. Yes, like, you need a community. You need that countering idea. To keep you, I like to say, keep you humble. It's like, you think you looking good walking out on the street, and then you got someone, like, for me, it'd be my siblings, to go, you still ugly. Thank you. I need that humility.
Right.
to keep me down here, so I don't have a big head.
Right. Exactly. And that's what You are exactly right. I have friends that hold me accountable, friends that, speak the truth to me in love when they see me veering, or, you know what I'm saying, just kind of wandering or whatever. I have people, you know, excuse me, that keep me accountable. And I definitely believe in that. And once again, I don't want anybody to take that from this, that I don't believe in church. I don't believe in assembling yourselves. But my thing is, the Old Testament, they assembled themselves from house to house also. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily go to a church. But like I said, I'm not against church. I don't know anybody else's experience. And I would say for the majority of people, or at least have people need that, like you said, they need that community. They need that. Everybody needs community. But I'm saying some people need that accountability that comes with attending church and everything. We, like you said, we all need
Mm-hmm.
accountability. So please don't take that I'm against the church. The church is the bride of Christ. The capital C church is Christ's bride. And so I would never denigrate, put them down or anything. I'm just saying, for me, the space I'm in right now, I'm wanting to be connected. I just don't have a place that just rings a bell for me, that this is where I need to be, or this is where I want to go. And I'm
Right.
very teachable. I'm not one of these people that's prideful out here thinking like I know everything. No, I'm very teachable. And I believe in sound doctrine, what it sounds to me. But, so I don't want anybody to take, my takeaway point is, make sure while you sit up in there every Sunday, that between those Sundays, you are doing something to engage and communicate with the Father. I want you, because it's people that sit up there 50 years, but they don't grow, they don't mature, they're mean,
Mm-hmm.
they're ugly to
Mm-hmm.
people. You know what I'm saying? That's not what Christ and church is about. To check something you check off of your to-do list, your task list. It's about a relationship every day of the week. That's what it's about to me. It's about an
Mm-hmm.
intimate walk, communication, relationship. And it's like, you have people, like I said, that sit up in there, but they don't grow. They're like a bump on the log from year to year.
Mm-hmm.
Their
Yep.
life never changed. The fruit of the spirit never changes. Their growth, the way they treat their family, the way they interact with others on their job. That's not what he meant. There should be, he said, you will know them by their fruit. His true people, you'll know them by their fruit. And so I just encourage the people, get to know him for yourself, whether you in church or out of church or whatever. You still need to have that relationship. That's just my thing.
Right. You're so right. And I'm glad you clarified that, because yeah, this is not a church bashing
No,
episode. This is just,
no,
hey,
this is
this
just
is
my testimony, you know,
right.
and I appreciate you inviting me on. Appreciate you
You're very
having me.
welcome. You're very, very welcome. Thank you for coming. I do want to plug in your Facebook page if you want to.
Sure,
For those to reach out to you if they wanted to talk
sure.
to you, or to, because I know you don't just, you know, like we said in the beginning, you're not just, doing prayer and Bible study. Like, you're
Mhm.
a life coach. So,
Right.
you coach, yes, you coach mainly women.
Yes.
Um, that's, I would say, more comfortable for you.
Yes.
So, any men listening, sorry. Um, but you also, like, you spoke on relationships, you spoke on what else? Relationships, family,
Yes.
not just church, like family, stuff like that. So, friendships, all that stuff. So she's not just, like I said, uh, a mom. She's a whole lot of things. But go ahead and give us that Facebook plug. I'll put it in the description
Okay.
of the podcast as well.
Okay. My Facebook page is Beauty for Ashes. That's Beauty for Ashes. And that's one of my life verses, Isaiah 61:3. It talks about the restoration that God desires to do in our lives, where he'll take the ashes, the remains of a hard season, the heap of mess that sometimes is our life, that our life has become, and he'll give us something beautiful. But there has to be an exchange. He said he'll give you beauty for ashes. We have to release the ashes into his hand. We have to be willing to give him the hurt, the pain, the disappointment, the betrayal, the rejection, the abandonment, whatever it is. We have to give him the mess in order for him to create something beautiful, which becomes your message to the world about him. And so the page name is Beauty for Ashes, and it's a private women's group on Facebook. I haven't expanded to any other platforms with this particular group as of yet.
Okay, so again, that is Beauty for Ashes, all spelled out.
Yes.
And it's a private group, so you have to request
Yes.
to get in. Don't just be trying to find it and be like, oh, I can get it. No, you got to request to get in,
Right.
because it is a safe space.
Yeah.
And open to all communications. Well, anyways, thank you again for your time. I appreciate it.
Yes, you are so welcome.
This will be on YouTube. So you guys get to hear that Church Hurt Part 3. All right, guys, we will talk to you later. Bye. Hey, did you enjoy that podcast? So did we. Check us out for our most recent updates on IG at City Country Chicks Podcast.